Google Ads for e-commerce brands is actually really simple and really easy. What I want to do in this video is just break down 80% of Google Ads basics in however long this video is going to be. The number's going to be in the title, and that's just the way it usually works these days. Do you know who I am? Jordan Bailey, founder of Demand Capture. We scale e-commerce brands with Google and YouTube ads. We specialize in top of funnel stuff, new customer acquisition, cold traffic funnels. If you don't just want to spend thousands of dollars wasted on your brand name every single month for Google, and you actually want to scale your e-commerce brand with Google Ads, then you come to us. We'll do that for you. First link in the description to find our free Google Ads course, which teaches you everything we know about scaling e-commerce brands with Google Ads. Second link is our website. Watch our VSL, check out our case studies if you want to work with us. Without further ado, let's get into it. So the first thing you need to understand when it comes to Google Ads basics, number one, is that it's not a magic bullet. And what I mean by that is that you can't just run Google Ads and expect your e-commerce brand to magically scale and get thousands of new customers every single month. You can add a whole bunch of ad spend and marketing onto a shit product, shit unit economics, shit offer, products no one wants and that has no product market fit whatsoever. First and foremost, you need to go from 0 to 1. And what I do recommend people do with this is, as always, you just do your meta ads. Like if you don't have any meta ad funnels running at all, you're not generating any sort of awareness or demand for your product or your brand at all, then do not do Google Ads. You can scale with Google Ads specifically just around the product category, and we do get into that. But there are a couple of things that you unlock when you also use Google alongside your meta ads. You get brand awareness, you get cash flow, you get product market fit, you get validation of offers, validation of different pages, all that type of stuff. So from 0 to 1, you go meta. From like 1 to 5, obviously to 10, you have your meta plus your Google. And so it's not going to be a magic bullet to kind of save your whole e-commerce brand. The things you want to be focusing on always is, of course, your NCAC, which is what you're scaling into, what your AOV is, what your LTV is, your general unit economics, obviously your supply chain. This is all before you get into advertising anyway. Of course, your actual product, but more importantly, your category that you're in. So what is your product category? What is the actual TAM that you have? So Google Ads won't work on a brand which has an NCAC way too high than what you can actually bid for and pay for on Google. If your AOV is lower, then it's going to be harder to advertise. Of course, if your AOV is higher, that's great. If you have a high LTV, then that's great. If you're just going for subscriptions, you can do that too. But you've got to make sure that all of this is super lined up, ready to actually advertise on Google in the first place, because then otherwise there's no point of advertising, the metrics won't work, and the natural CAC that you actually have to pay on Google, because the CPMs are always going to rise, CPCs are always going to get more competitive. There are blue oceans you can do on Google, and you do those, but the main driver for this is going to be for your top of funnel stuff, which relies on the initial search volume around the product and the problem aware searches that you have around your product category and the problem that you solve. Then also the strength of your creative, the strength of your cold traffic funnel, which goes on YouTube. So you can't run all of this unless you can withhold the CPM and CPC that Google is going to give you, which leads us to the next point. The next point is that there is a natural CAC. And I love this term. There is a natural CAC that our platform is going to charge you to advertise on that platform. CPMs, right? CPMs are always going to go up. CPCs, not necessarily always going to go up. They can go up and down. They will stay the same. But like competition, in terms of people entering the market, and we've seen this with a few of our clients, this is always going to go up as well, right? And so the actual NCAC, which is the cost to acquire a new customer, which is your whole golden metric for advertising, what is your NCAC, and then how much is that AOV worth? And then what is the profit behind that, which is the whole point, right? We're trying to acquire customers, make them worth as much as possible, get as much money from them as possible in the first purchase, and then have a profit on the first purchase, right? This is ideal. If you can't have this, then you've got to have the numbers to back up. So you know your LTV, know how much that cohort is going to be worth from this particular channel. Your Meta customers might be worth different to your Google customers. You need to understand this. Your Google customers might be worth more than your YouTube customers. You need to understand that as well. So the idea is to be first order profitable on your NCAC. And there's going to be a natural CAC that the platform's going to charge you for. But basically, if you have the right product category, your unit economics are good, and you can withstand the CPCs and the CPMs, which Google is going to give you to advertise on search, advertise on shopping, and be competitive with the other people who are also advertising on that product, on those problems, on those terms, and inventory in that auction, then you're going to have a wildly profitable business. But this is just the basics, right? We're not even getting to like copy or conversion tracking or GMC setup. Like this is just the fundamentals of Google Ads. It's just the basics of it. So there's going to be a natural CAC that Google will want to charge you for this conversion. You can control that with, better pages in terms of CVR, better ads in terms of CTR, making sure your customers are worth a lot more over their lifetime. Like you can control all of this, but naturally it's going to be a CAC that you're going to have to pay. So unless you can withstand this CAC when it comes to advertising for your product category and for your product, then there's no point in advertising on Google at all. And that's just something that you're going to have to say, hey, look, our current business model can't advertise at all. We can't afford to advertise. We have to go organic, have to do something else, some other marketing. But most of the time, if people are searching for your product on Google, then you will be able to actually advertise on it. Next bit of basics. So we have already mentioned Meta, but like Google is different than Meta. So Google is not Meta. And what I mean by this is this. So first and foremost is that Google is a comparative shopping platform. So Google is a comparative shopping platform. What I mean by this, so you have Meta over here, right? And you've got the feed. And so you've got a post here, a post here, and a post here, right? So this is going to be some sort of like post from your mum and his dog. This is going to be like your ex-girlfriend from high school. And then this one is going to be an ad, right? And you see one ad at a time. So it's one ad, one post, one post. When you're searching on Google, on the other hand, so you have your Google here, you have the search engine results page, you got the search term you have here. Here you have like some sort of info, AI, or whatever. Here you have the shopping's going to be here. So there's been ad here, ad here, ad here, ad here, right? Here it's going to be the sponsored post, like the main one at the top. And you have like some more sponsored here. And then you got some other like shopping stuff here. As you see, as soon as you search for this one thing here, in terms of the search page, all of these ads are coming up at once. And these are all your competitors. And then this ad is here, right? So Google is a comparative shopping platform, which means that when someone is searching for that product, they're seeing every single ad at the same time. And so how do you stand out on that page when it comes to search ads, the shopping ads, etc.? So you've got your product image, which is the first thing that people see. Our eyes are drawn to it. Then you've got the product title, which is the thing under it. And then you got like the price. So the price is here and people are comparing on price. And then you got like the reviews. So how many stars do you have? This is 3 stars. This is like 5 stars. This is like 4 stars, right? Then you got like shipping, which is another thing which people have all at the same time across every single different product, right? So you have all these different things to optimize on when it comes to beating your competitors. So that's the name of the game when it comes to Google Ads. You're not just beating your competitors in terms of like the actual creative on the video and winning the auction in terms of that spot on the feed for Meta, but you've got the rank in terms of where you fit in first position, second position, third position in the shopping ad. But then you can also win on second position, on third position if you have a better price, a better offer, better shipping, better image, better product title, better product description, better product feed optimization, and your page is congruent to the ad and to the term that they actually searched, and your page converts at a high rate with a lot of social proof, a lot of evidence, a lot more info, and you retarget them as well with Meta. You're able to get that conversion when they are shopping around. It's very typical to see that someone like clicks this ad and then they're like, okay, I'm going to go back now. So then they go back on their page and then they click like this ad and then they go back on their page and then they click this ad and it's your ad. And they're like, okay, this is the better offer. I'm going to click on this one and buy from this one. The different mindset you need to have is that how do you win not just the auction, but also display yourself in comparison to all the other competitors which you are competing with on Google. And so that's the biggest difference when it comes to that. And now this is all without going into video. Obviously, YouTube and Meta are pretty much similar, even though they're different platforms. I would say there's a couple of slight differences when it comes to YouTube and Meta. For Meta, for example, as you see over here, you're just scrolling and kind of in a dead state. Again, with YouTube, they have initially searched to watch an initial video, and then you're interrupting them watching their video, and people already are aware that an ad's going to come up if they have ad blockers. So your ad really needs to get them to punch them in the face and be like, you need to watch this and this is relevant to you. How relevant can you make that ad to make them stop watching what they initially actually want to click on out of the rest of the videos that they could be watching and spending their time on, to go away and then click on your funnel and then get in your funnel and then buy your product? It needs to really be as strong of a creative as possible. You can't just mess around with like basic Meta creatives and the stuff that you would feed Andromeda just to hit the 50 creatives a week metric that Andromeda is giving you now. You need to run your best stuff and the best placements and the best creative specifically for YouTube, because it is much harder to crack. But once you do, that same creative can go millions and millions of dollars in ad spend easily because it is an actual banger. You need to be optimizing for like your top 1% YouTube ads in terms of the creative for it, and those are the ones that will get you far. You can do like a top 10% Meta ad and that will get you really far. If you run any of the other like 99% YouTube ads, they're just going to completely flop. But if you ran like, a couple of ones into like the 90 to 99th percentile for your Meta ads, they'd also work, they'd also do well. But you do really need your top 1% for YouTube to actually be able to scale. So those are the main differences between Google and Meta. So they're massively different in terms of the basics of it. Real quickly, the fourth point is like why you even need Google in the first place. Because you might be thinking, okay, well, I can just always advertise on Meta and not need Google at all. So when you advertise on Meta, right, you're producing a lot of product level and also brand level interest in your brand, but also in your product, right? And what people are going to do naturally is that they're going to go onto Google and they're going to search for it and they're going to click I'm feeling lucky and they're going to come up to the search page, and what are they going to find? So this is their search term, and then these are the shopping ads and these are the search ads, and they search for your brand name, right? What they'll find is that all these sponsored shopping ads up here, so this is like competitor 1, competitor 2, competitor 3, competitor 4, you're not here, competitor 5, your main competitors here, and then there's some other competitors here, and then you're all the way down here as the organic listing, right? People are searching for your brand name because they saw one of your Meta ads, and you're not even coming up on the Google search at all. So you've lost that customer. You basically paid for someone else's conversion through the Meta ad that they saw and they clicked, and then they searched for your brand name on Google. They didn't find you because Google just puts all of the sponsored posts first. They're like, okay, I'm going to click that one because people are stupid, and then they'll just buy from your competitors. So this is one reason why you need Google. Second reason, it's more traffic coming from a different source to the same pages. So your general Google tag on your Facebook pixels going like, oh, okay, these are all people I can show for Meta ads to on Instagram once they're on Instagram. So they understand who that customer is in relation to they hit your page. And now they are fair game to be advertised to in a cheaper way. So Facebook's going to see that. Thanks, Google. Alley-oop. You chip away, it's going to be the Meta logo and the Google logo together, but there's hardly going to be any overlap because the Google funnel is going to be like, oh, I can get some new customers which are never going to be on Instagram, never going to be on Meta, and aren't even in the buying pool for your standard event of your purchase, or even in the product category, or Facebook doesn't even have the data for them to be interested in actually buying that product in the first place, or they're facing that problem for Meta to be able to show the ad to them. And so Google has a completely different set to Meta in terms of the audience data, which means that you're better off just advertising to as many of the total addressable market that you have as possible. And they might not even just be on Meta or Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever, but they will be on YouTube. Most people are. Google's the number one search traffic in the world. Your second is YouTube. Google owns both of them. So you may as well advertise on there. Meta has more data. It's easier to kind of validate a product and actually get stuff out there because Instagram is so strong in terms of a buying platform. But you do have sophisticated buyers and high LTV buyers, which can build a massive cohort through cold customers on Google. So you do pay to actually go out there to Google. So one is to protect your brand name for your customers, but two, you may as well advertise if the numbers run because you can do a 3x to 5x ROAS on cold terms with your product if you know what you're doing. Why wouldn't you build a money machine on two different platforms and advertise through that as well? You can get to $1 million a year just through Meta. But if you want to get to 10 million a year, you need to lead a branded search campaign. Otherwise, you are just leaking money. Plus, you've got all these Meta creatives already, and you've got all these funnels, and you've got all these pages. Why not just duplicate them over to YouTube? The CPMs are way cheaper. The CPCs are way cheaper. You may as well just do that. That's why you need Google. Lastly, as a basic, what funnel do you run, right? What's the actual strategy? So this is a strategy that we use for basically all of our clients. You can think of it this way. So there's top of funnel, which is problem aware. If you pull out your Eugene Schwartz, there's middle of funnel campaigns, which is the product aware stuff. And then there's bottom of funnel campaigns, which is your brand aware stuff. And there's a certain amount of campaigns that you can use to hit each different one of these. Your budget allocation for these, this is going to be like 70% to 80% of your budget. This is going to be 10 to 15% of your budget. And then typically speaking, you only want to be spending 5% of your total budget on brand terms. The bottom of funnel stuff, it's going to be branded search. So your brand terms, core brand terms, and then branded shopping. You can also, if you really want it properly, you can do remarketing in this as well. A display remarketing with demand gen. So there's that. So here, Big Daddy PMAX goes in the middle of funnel. I like it in the middle of funnel, but you can also just have standard search, standard shopping for this. And you can have like multiple different campaigns for this, depending on your category, depending on your SKUs, that type of stuff. Then stage one, you're basically just going to be doing like this area. But where 70 to 80% of your budget should be going is problem aware search. So problem search, really cold terms, loads of different traffics. Imagine like loads of different funnels essentially to all the different problems that your customers are facing. And of course, YouTube. So if you're only spending on like branded search, branded shopping for your brand, then there's more that you could be doing. You could be spending so much more money on search and shopping. Once you establish that, then you can move into wider search, scaling TCPA on open budgets, and then on YouTube with mass amount video campaigns, different cold traffic funnels, different conversion mechanisms, targeting different creators and creatives, different placements at TV, different locations, all that type of stuff, depending fully on your offer, your unit economics, if your brand can actually withstand those metrics. So that's the general strategy that we follow as like a very high level thing. If you want like a lot more detail in terms of beyond just the basics when it comes to Google Ads, we have a full 4-hour Google Ads course, which you can watch by clicking the link in the description, which basically demonstrates everything that we know about scaling e-commerce brands with Google Ads. This video here is just the basics of what you need to know. It's not a magic bullet. There is a natural CAC that you need to pay. Google isn't Meta. This is why you need Google, and this is the strategy that you've got to follow. If you want to put all the puzzle pieces together yourself, then watch the full course. If you want us to put the puzzle pieces together for you, for your e-commerce brand, click the second link in the description. You can see if you would be a good fit. If you do have the AOV, the LTV, the economics, the supply chain, all the stuff we look for to take people from 1 all the way to 10 when it comes to Google Ads, adding hundreds of thousands of dollars in new customer revenue every single month, thousands of new customers every single week, with all the stuff I showed you here. Of course, with all of the top of funnel stuff here, the branded stuff is pretty much standard. Everyone should be doing this, although most people mess this up, which is annoying. Then you also got middle funnel stuff here. If you want us to set this up for you, depending on your particular product, your category, the problems that your customers are facing, we go super in depth to it. Like glove done for you experience scaling on Google Ads, then click the second link in the description, watch our VSL, look at our case studies, and check out the rest of the stuff on our YouTube channel so you know that we know what we're doing, and then we can work with you to be able to scale you up on YouTube and Google. Link to the full course in the description as well as on screen. I'll see you in that video.